Right, so just usual start, nice and easy and gently. If you just start the movement going, turn in the center of your body, as you settle into the posture and as you sort of lose some of the tightness in your body and so on and so forth, you can begin to notice changes in the quality of the movement. There's a very distinctive feel, I think, to all Tai Chi, whether it's done fast or slow. It's a bit like how some people can sit in their car and just listen to the car or get the feel of their car and tell you what's wrong with it. In the same way, we develop that sort of intuitive sense of what's going on in our body. And also about whether we're doing the movement correctly or not. We have this interesting combination, things like a very loose feeling, and yet not random, not kind of floppy, but quite a definition to the movement. So that stronger, more connected element also starting to make itself felt. Importantly, a feeling within your body of space, not doing movements in such a way that create a kind of jerking, tightening within the body. Sense that your body is moving with a sense of harmony with itself. So, for instance, when we stretch, if you stretch out a muscle like this, then what you're doing is you're pushing your hand in one direction, kind of pulling in the other direction to get the stretch. Like if you stretch out an elastic band or a shirt or something like that. We don't do that in Tai Chi. We're looking for the opposite. We're looking for everything working together. So again, if you go back to the car, you're not trying to stretch the car. You're not trying to get one part of the car to somehow work differently or more than another part. You want all the individual components to work together, or it could be any machine. And in the same way, we want all the different components of our body and mind to work together with this kind of common aim, common intent. So all these things we sort of remind ourselves about with the initial exercises, because for some reason they're all things that kind of get lost. Chatting to a couple of people yesterday in a meditation group, and one was saying how she felt very fragmented, everything all over the place. And it had a kind of like busy day and lots of things to do, and there was somebody around doing the gardening, and this is going on, this is going on. And sometimes you can feel pulled in different directions by outside events and by your own thoughts as well. So there's this defragmenting quality about arts like Tai Chi, and it's bound up with this idea of a kind of common intent. So the movements, the exercises give a focus for that intent. And I think it's one of the great healing benefits of the art that we can, we can go into a Tai Chi session feeling a bit kind of all over the place, but come out with just that sense of the possibility of something a little bit calmer, a little bit quieter, a little bit more spacious. Like going into a room that's untidy and spending half an hour tidying it up, and you can move around in it again. And then raising your arms And let your hands drop down. Take a couple of slow, gentle breaths. You may notice a change in the quality of your breathing. There's this very smooth, almost fluid-like quality to the breath that quite naturally develops. So, there's various things that we can begin to become aware of. Now, just rocking your weight forwards and backwards a little. As we know, for all these things to happen, there has to be a bit of structural awareness. We have to look for the correct postures, correct style of movement. And the correct way of moving, which is always going to be something that, in one way or another, starts with something happening in your feet. It may be your feet pushing gently into the ground. It may be your feet sinking into the ground and feeling the push up that comes as a result of that. It may be, as we've got now, a movement of the weight in our feet or between our feet. Just feel the sort of almost like a wave of movement to and fro along the arch of your foot, between the ball of your foot and the front part of your heel. Feel how that affects your toes, the top of your foot. Follow the movement up through your legs, so up through your calves and shins, your knees, thighs, your hips, pelvis. Feel what's happening in your pelvis as you move. And then on up into your upper body, so your spine, of course, your ribs, the skeleton, but also the soft tissue of the upper body, muscle, tendon, ligament, fascia, the organs themselves. Shoulders and arms, and then just having your arms out. Imagine being in water, swaying in the river. And notice if your attention has switched. Have you lost that sense of what's happening in your feet? It's quite common to do that, especially now that we're bringing the arms in to the movement, because you try not to stand there doing this. Remember, it's the weight moving in your feet first of all, then in your hips and so on, the arms and your hands, following the movement in the rest of your body. Imagine being in water. It's another way of developing, cultivating this stronger, more connected quality within the body. And bring your hands up into the position where you talk about carrying a tray of drinks. Keep your elbows slightly in front of your body, don't go to there, because you can see now my arms are kind of disconnected from the rest of my body. If it helps, you could just very gently press your elbows against the side of your body for a few moments. You get that feeling of the movement working through your arms and your fingers. So again, you're not standing there doing this, I hope. And just feel the rhythm, the flow in the movement. And feel how that's working through your arms, even though you're not moving your arms. And then gradually let that movement, see, my elbow goes just a little bit forwards and back. But what we want to avoid is this, remember. So this is a really good exercise for developing that awareness of the quality of the movement. And regardless of whether what you're doing a very simple exercise or a more complicated form, a sequence, something fast, some of the forms in particular have fast movements in. This quality should always be there. This time, to a point just behind the ball of each foot, sinking down and pushing up. Same quality of movement, same connections in the body. You should feel that your shoulders move up and down just a fraction of a second earlier than your arms and your hands move up and down. And of course, really feeling that releasing feeling, lower back, hips, buttocks, as you sink down, allowing your center of gravity to drop, allowing gravity to just flow down through your body, creating the pressure, shall we call it, in the feet, in the ground, in your legs, that eventually results in you coming up again. And then change into the wild goose. And parting the clouds. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Weight slightly forwards in your feet, soften your knees, just allowing your hips to drop back. do one more on each side. Keep this posture, you see my hips dropping back. Loose and spacious around your hips and your waist. Change, pushing in 4 directions. As your hands go up, notice whether you're stiffening up in your lower back and hips. Try and avoid that. Either move less or find a way of moving your arms that doesn't involve that tightening. There is a way. And in the first instance, you want to have if like an intent that you're not going to stiffen up. Keep transmitting that intent to your body. Keep a nice, even, steady pace all the way through this exercise. It's tempting to speed up at certain points, but once you've established a rhythm, a pace of movement, try and maintain it. Notice how the center part of your body, hips and waist, function to really direct your arms. On a more subtle level, you could say that the shaping of the movement is always transmitted through the center part of your body. And then changing. Looking for an economy of movement. Don't look up at your hand as it goes. Face forwards and just push your hand out. Keep looking ahead. Feel the hand going around. And imagine as you do this that somebody's gently leaning on this shoulder. So you don't lift the shoulder. Hips still dropping back. If you feel as though you're tightening in the upper part of your body, it's best not to do the turn. If you're okay with this, you turn in your hips. But the problem is if you're tightening in the upper part of your body, you're sort of breaking the connection. So you'll probably just twist your back around. Don't turn too far. And then change the other side. Try and get away from the feeling that you have to move further all the time. The goal is that harmonious intent. We're not turning at the moment, we're just doing it without turning. Sometimes that harmonious intent is achieved through less movement. That quite often is achieved through that, not more. Now again, if it's comfortable, I have to turn. And rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. Very, very soft in your back, your neck, both as you go forwards and as you come back. It's the dropping of your weight, the tilting of your pelvis. It keeps you steady, not wrenching your back and shoulders. One more time. And then lift that. So the posture that we're looking for, I'll show you with this. We sometimes call it sitting, and it's like, this is slightly too tall actually in some ways, but it does kind of work. What I want to get is this feeling, can you see there, that my hips and buttocks, they're sort of overhanging the chair. I'm not just here, I'm here. So straighten my feet up. If somebody were to come and take the chair away, I would adjust just by letting the pelvis settle. And I'm still in this position, always want to hold that position. In terms of awareness, in a way, there's a kind of two-part awareness, because one of the things that these exercises do, of course, I mentioned the shoulder there. Imagine somebody pressing on your shoulder. The problem with that is that suddenly all our attention can get focused on our shoulder, and we've fragmented. So there's, in a way, two levels of awareness. There's a very specific awareness, maybe this part of the body, this particular exercise, what it's doing, this particular pathway, but always underlying that, there should be a kind of background awareness. Like, you know, if you listen to a piece of music, there's quite often a pulse or a rhythm that underlies it. And if suddenly that rhythm was taken away, it wouldn't sound right. So, you know, we in a way, I suppose we want to try and cultivate those things a little bit separately, although they should be working together. So the background sets off the foreground, as it were, like in a painting. You know, if you can imagine a painting like, I don't know, a painting of a tree in a landscape, you know, with mountains behind it or something like that. If you took away the mountains, it would be quite a different picture, and it's that full picture that we're actually looking for. Now, going back to the wild goose. So having a specific awareness doesn't necessarily cause a fragmentation, but it can begin to pull you in that direction. So what we learn in Tai Chi, you know, maybe here, maybe thinking about the bird, or maybe thinking about what's happening in the arms and the hands or the chest. And the further we go with that, the more likely we are to lose that kind of background. But Tai Chi will always bring you back. And so, you know, we reconnect with that background awareness as we sink down. So now, simply by turning in the middle of the body, we can maintain that harmony in a slightly more complex exercise, provided we think about the exercise in the correct way. Don't try and lift your arms. Don't try and turn your body. Just trust that if you simply think about movement in your hips and your waist, encourage that movement from side to side, everything will work out just fine. If you were to try to turn your waist without turning any other part of your body, you'll probably find it extremely difficult. Now with just one hand, it doesn't matter which hand, at one rest, come up, let your elbow drop, bring your hand in to your shoulder and press forwards. On the side, this is, well, it's a half circle. Your elbow dropping is the thing that redirects your hand, stops it going around the full circle. And that happens as your hand reaches shoulder height. And now your hand is well placed to push forwards. After a little while, once you've got this, you don't have to have the hand pushing forwards. You see it's facing downwards and it kind of curves through now. A bit closer to show you that. Show you one more time on this side. There's the elbow dropping. There's the hand dipping down slightly and coming up. Same thing on the other side. There's the elbow dropping. You see the shape of my hand and it unfolds. Sometimes you might see me really allow the fingers to come all the way together so they make a point there. You should only really be concerning yourself with these details once the rest of the movement is working for you. So you see, rather than just this very abrupt bang, right, I'm ready to push, it's a much more fluid, evolving movement. And then both hands together. So now what happens is the hands are almost facing each other here. Some people take this to quite a precise level, that they actually imagine holding a ball here and then moving out. I don't go quite that far myself personally, but there is the sense there. So for instance, if you keep going, this is the very traditional inner tube from cardboard roll from kitchen foil, something like that. And you can see I could almost do this exercise like this. Of course, I wouldn't be able to get the actual push forward, but that's the kind of connection you want in the hand. So if you want a feel for this, next time you finish up your kitchen foil or whatever, keep hold of the inner tube, because they're quite handy for this. And you can really begin to feel the connection. Now, change the movement, go into bear play, which has many of the same features, but a little bit more of a swing to it. Feel the movement in your back, your shoulder blades. And of course, the key to this is a change in the image from pushing forwards and that real sense of precision to the very fluid, almost free-form movements of the bear. Do one more on each side, and then we're going to go back to the previous exercise, circling arms. The weight will stay in the middle. So you come to the middle, and we have this very strong feeling of a connection between the hands. You could almost imagine you've got an elastic band between your hands, and what happens is that you pull out, feel the belly and the chest expanding, your back expanding, and then contracting, coming through to here, which means, of course, here, this is where you'll be stretching out the elastic band. So there's an opening here and a closing, and then opening again and closing. You can feel that not just in your arms, of course, but all the way through your body. The backward movement, the arm moving backwards, is more important than the arm moving forwards. But we often find that our attention is on the arm moving forwards, not the other one. Good, and shake out. So those kind of images are used in some cases as an introduction to what we call the Fujing, the faster movements that you find in some Tai Chi styles, Chen style. And so what they would be telling you is, you know, if say you were going to punch here, if you watch there, it's not this, you know, you go to punch something, everybody goes like that, and there's no strength in that. The strength is in the whole body, and the way we understand that in Tai Chi is by using this front hand to pull back like this. So this is how it would work from here, there. I think suddenly the hands arrive there, and same thing on the other side. They actually tell you that what you should be doing is tearing your shirt. There, tearing back. I've never done that, by the way. But it's an encouragement to use your whole body rather than just your fist. And you find that in lots of the fighting arts. I mean, you find it in Western boxing as well. So when we're doing this exercise, think of that hand that's pulling back. Because look, if I pull back here, you can see, can't you? What's happening to my right hand? It's already moving. I'm not trying to move it, but it's already moving. So then all I'm going to do is that. No. So it redirects the focus of our attention. Okay, let's do swimming dragon. And this too, you find there's always an opposite movement in Tai Chi. There's always a counter movement. So start with your hips and your pelvis and just tilting from side to side. So one hip is going up, the other hip's going down. One shoulder going up, the other shoulder going down. There's your opposite movement. You could concentrate on this side of your body contracting. You could concentrate on the pelvis tilting from side to side. You could concentrate on a push up from the other side. But in reality, all of those movements are significant. Now, hands together, fingers pointing in the direction your shoulders are moving. Very careful. You can see a little bit of movement, sideways movement in my knees. And then drop your hips down. Don't lean forwards. Go underneath the belly. In between belly and solar plexus. Between solar plexus and your throat and over the top of your head, or as near to those points as you can. You may find it difficult, say for instance, for your hands to go above your head, and of course you shouldn't be forcing them. Swimming dragon. And then if it's comfortable for you, feet together. Very carefully, remember, this isn't about big movement, but don't just move your arms. It's your hips and your pelvis moving your arms. Some of you just seem to be moving your arms, not the rest of your body. You'll hurt your shoulders if you do that. Don't turn either. Keep facing forwards. Just sideways movement. Change direction. If you look at my shoulders, they stay in line with each other. Some of you are doing this. That's actually quite a risky movement on your back. So go carefully, please. One thing you might like to try, stand back against a wall. Then you won't be able to turn. That's quite tricky. Okay, and then shake it. Got my wall hanging. So pay attention to these exercises. Swimming dragon is a very strong exercise. It's an advanced exercise. And we should be using those exercises to develop the focusing of our attention to develop the mind. Always check, always ask questions. But some people are doing this, which is quite a nasty thing to do to your back. So you need to look. One of the great skills in learning Tai Chi is to look accurately, to see what the person is doing, not what you think they might be doing. So always check. The worst that happens is you find out you're doing it correctly. You may well find out, oh, hold on, this is going on, or whatever. Now, 1 foot forwards, transferring the weight with a little bit of a pause above each foot. It's worth reminding yourself that one of the great myths about these exercises is that you can't hurt yourself with them. It really is a myth. You can and you will hurt yourself if you don't do them correctly. So check your posture, check you're not twisting your knees up or overextending your knees. Just listen to your body. other points in your back or your shoulders that feel like they're really kind of hanging on tightly. Raising your toes and your heel. Don't lean. And don't do this. Don't come forward and then come up. Stay down. And step in. The step is a contraction and an expansion of your leg. And then on the other side, again, remember, there's always a balancing movement, an opposite movement that ultimately ends up being a downward movement into the ground. But there may be other elements to it as well. I mean, there's a certain amount of pushing back to go forwards, for instance. But eventually that pushing back will have to find its way into the ground. Raising your toes and your heel. Step in. Good, and then just take a few steps forwards or backwards. And then change direction. Okay. Have your right foot forwards and bird folds its wings. Register that the principal forwards and backwards movement that you will feel in your arms actually is because your weight is moving. And then fisherman cast a net. Now, just with your right hand, so the hand with adjacent to the forward leg, go back and turn, and then go forwards and turn. So feel this hip goes back, the shoulder, the arm goes back. This hip goes forwards, the arm goes forwards. Now, on the opposite side, the weight's going back, but the way you're turning means that this hip, my far hip, is going forward, so the arm goes forward. When I go forward, I turn, that hip goes back. And when you bring them both together, you very much feel the connection between the two, governed by that turning in the center of your body. Good. Okay, and shake. And then on the other side. So now, and then fisherman cast the net. And then switch into Wind Blows the Willows. Okay, and then shake out. So in the way that we do Wind Blows the Willows, when we turn opposite to the direction of the foot. I'm on my back foot's pointing that way, but I turn that way. And that sends that hand forwards and that hand back. And then when I go forwards, my foot's pointing forwards and I turn to the side and so on and so forth. You can do Wind Blows the Willows in both directions, by the way. When I first learned it, I asked the teacher, which way, and said it doesn't matter. So I could do this. I don't, for various reasons, as a rule. But that is what happens when we do Repulse the Monkey. When we do Repulse the Monkey, we're turning with the direction of the feet. So have your right foot forwards, and we'll do the left hand first. Move your weight back into your left foot. Turn to swing your hand up to the shoulder. Drop the elbow, let the hand come in, and going forwards to push, like you're opening a door or pushing a door closed or something like that. So just notice the rotation, the direction of the rotation in the center of your body. Here, you should be rotating clockwise. And here, I think anti-clockwise. I might have that the wrong way around. Maybe that's not helpful. No, anti-clockwise as you go back, clockwise as you go forward. We were doing it now, this is a pull movement. You pull back, you push forwards. You pull back. And this hand moves with the direction of the weight. Weight goes back, the hand goes back. Weight goes forward, the hand goes forwards. The other hand, so your right hand, goes the opposite way. So as I go back, my weight goes back, but my body turns this way. And if you look from the side, here, I'm exaggerating. I go back and I turn, see which way my hip is going and my shoulder's going. And if the hip and the shoulder are going that way, then the arm will go that way. So as I go forward and I pull. You see my hip and my shoulder go back. This is very exaggerated, by the way. So there. Pulling back as you go forwards. Pushing forwards as you go back. The reversal through the center of your body. So now we bring both arms into the movement. And as with the circling arms exercise we did earlier, we want to feel that connection between the hands, and we want a certain focus of attention on the hand that's doing the pulling. One more time. Again, change sides. Feel the connection, feet to hips, hips to shoulders, shoulders to elbows, elbows to wrists, wrists to the palm of your hands and your fingers. Keep it nice and slow, forwards with the back hand, and as your weight goes back, forwards with the front hand. Nice steady pace. If you go slowly, it's more likely that you'll feel those connections in the body. The more you can feel them, the more they'll become useful to you. If you go very fast, you'll feel them as well. So a very important element in what I describe as the background awareness is the very center of your body. That's your grounding point. and then bring your feet parallel. If you did something like that fast, you could just do this, couldn't you? No problem. Your hands are going in the right direction. But it's quite difficult to pick up on the very subtle connections. It's like riding a bike. Yeah. You know, a really good cyclist can cycle really slowly and still not fall off. So, okay. Just rubbing your hands together. Tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder, and your arm. The other side. Now onto your back. Around your hips. Light on your belly. And onto the upper part of your chest. And shake out. Good. So embrace tiger, return to mountain. Continuing with this idea of always coming back to something, of course. Let your hips sink down. And again, pushing up. Wrapping your arms around so they're holding the ball against your chest. Drawing in and sinking. One more time. And stand. And shake out. So, thank you very much, everybody.